Are you hip to Cuban Twitter?
What is that?
They created a copy of Twitter to influence the people in Cuba, and this is recently, all completely phony to get all their information, get all their. They were going to build it up to 300,000 or 400,000, and then begin to have a color revolution down there to overthrow the Castro regime. They pulled the plug on it in the last minute because of the change of administrations.
Wow.
In 2016 to Trump, but they had created a completely.
The U.S. government did.
Yes, we created a completely parallel. Mike Benz talks about this. USAID had created a complete parallel Twitter, Cuban Twitter, and they had as many as 100, 150,000 followers, and they were building it up to a certain cutoff point where they would then begin to call for an uprising.
By the way, that's what TikTok is here.
Yeah,
right.
He's doing it.
I think that Elon knew that the feds, the intel agencies, were operating Twitter, and that he was going to war when he was going to buy it. But I think the reason he did is they were going to war with him. And then after this, he starts getting invested. So as soon as he makes his intentions clear that he's supporting Donald Trump, they start going after his companies. I think this goes way back. Biden had this electric car summit, didn't invite Tesla. I think Elon took that personally. I think it's probably deeper than we realize in that they were cutting out Elon despite the fact that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. An electric car company. He became rich. He became successful. He was telling people to buy their cars, and they were snubbing him and treating him like garbage. So then he says, why am I going to support these people? There's a lot more to it. The purchase of Twitter was tremendous for developing an AI. Using the fire hose of X to train your large language model was
that and Reddit. Reddit was also huge for training ChatGPT, et cetera.
Well, so Elon...
The head of Reddit was USAID, had a salary from...
Really?
Oh, yeah. The woman ran... Yeah, they was outed with the recent...
what was her name? I
forget it. Whoever the woman
Asian
is,
woman?
Whoever the woman is in charge of Reddit was also being paid by USAID.
So I think Elon knew he was buying a government asset. And long story short, we saw all the liberal personalities lose millions of followers overnight. You could track this on social media. Go back to 2012. Are you guys familiar with the LulzSec and anonymous hacking scandals of like the 2009, 10, 11, 12?
I've heard of it. I'm not familiar with it.
So Cablegate was big with Wikipedia, and then Wikipedia got attacked. And there was this group of, people call them hackers, that began to use the moniker Anonymous.
Oh, yeah.
Anonymous was never a group. It was never a group. It was a 4chan forum directing random operations. There was a small group of people that exploited this. They eventually called themselves LulzSec or Lulz Security.
Okay.
Some of the information released by these guys was then parsed by a guy named Barrett Brown for something called Project PM, where they discovered the U.S. Air Force was purchasing sock puppet Twitter accounts. A sock puppet is a fake account that looks like a real person. One guy would operate 50 accounts, and the presumption is in the Libyan civil war conflict and the death of Gaddafi, they manipulated Twitter to trick the American people into thinking that it was popular to oust Gaddafi, despite the fact Gaddafi was popular in his country. So I remember back in the day, being friends with a lot of these hackers, they started to question, how come so many of these Libyans that want to oust Gaddafi speak colloquial North American English? The average American doesn't think anything of it. Mm-hmm. They see an account from someone in Libya saying, we must stop Gaddafi, we need your support, to build public support for an international coalition to put a no-fly zone and airstrike, Libya, destroy the country. Ultimately, the NATO did. Libya's flattened, and now it's a slave trade operation of militia war and violence. But the explanation given after the fact was, the only reason they speak colloquial North American English is if they're on Twitter, they likely were educated in the West. That explains it. Mm-hmm. What actually explains it is that the U.S. government was running fake accounts to sway public opinion.
Right.
They are likely still doing this today.
Oh, yeah.
This is the new Mockingbird.
Yeah. Well, it's color revolutions have been outed. And what we've learned
the Covington Kids were.
What's that?
The Covington Kids was an operation like that. They came out of Brazil and then got picked up and went completely wide. Great book, Ryan Holiday, Trust Me, I'm Lying, does a beautiful job talking about this. And Pelosi even describes it with the wrap-up smear. So it's a similar principle.
Yeah, the keys to the kingdom are right now Romania and Hungary as to what is going to happen in Europe. What really happened just to give you a short history, when the Soviet Union collapsed, the secular atheistic communists who fled the Soviet Union came to London, New York, and LA. The real Soviet apparatchiks buried themselves into the Democratic Party. Look at people like Aperovich at CrowdStrike. Look where his father came from, an atomic scientist for the Soviet Union. They all fled the Soviet Union upon its collapse. The people who remained were not communists. The people who remained, and in fact, today, if you look at Putin and you look at the flourishing of the Christian church in Russia, Russia is now the United States of the 1950s, Tim.
Yeah.
You could make that analogy. But the people who came here burrowed into the Democratic Party. These far left communists burrowed their way into this party and took it by force, literally. And now they've been defeated and they're fleeing to Europe. Having these celebrities go to Europe is not an anomaly. They are literally fleeing the United States to go to the EU, which has now become the new Soviet Union. There's a guy who did a speech about this going back to 1999, 2000, about how the EU is exactly the same as the old Soviet Union.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.